your reflections on the 1 year anniversary and how far Guyana has come and what the government is going to be doing in terms of improving the electoral machinery and so.
Well, the March 2020 general and regional elections were labeled prior to the elections being held as the mother of all elections. And indeed, it turned out to be the mother of all elections since independence. Why? Because it was an elections that were done fairly, conducted in accordance with the law, observed by all the international observers, and certified by those observers to be free, fair, and credible. And what we saw subsequent to voting day was something never witnessed before in the Western Hemisphere. As one former Jamaican Prime Minister said, he witnessed the most transparent effort to interfere with the results of an election that he has ever seen. Now, the facts are all documented, beginning with Mingo, the returning officer of Region 4, refusing to use the statements of poll as a basis to tabulate those results, and instead used a spreadsheet which no one knew where it came from, and a spreadsheet which contained figures that were radically different from the statements of poll, and attempted to use that as a basis to tabulate the results. We rushed to the courts and we got an order to stop him. And then we got the Chief Justice to pronounce on how the tabulation should be done. That it must be done by the use of the statements of poll and nothing else as the primary basis for the tabulation. Notwithstanding the clear pronouncement of the Chief Justice, Mingo continued along that rogue path using a spreadsheet and then using statements of poll that could not have been verified, calling out numbers that were radically different from those appearing in the statements of poll of the political parties. And in all of this, GCOM, the machinery that is charged with the responsibility of conducting the elections, refusing to make the statements of poll public, and the APNU+AFC refusing to make public their statements of poll, though they claim that they have won the elections. And then the perverted results of that Mingo eventually tabulated were added up and given to GCOM. And they were going to declare those perverted results had it not been an intervention by CARICOM chairman Mia Mottley, the Honorable Prime Minister of Barbados, who persuaded the president that a recount must be done. Also important was the chairman of GCOM's declaration to a court and undertaking to a court that GCOM will hold a recount. When the recount was to start, there were all manner of delays and dilatory tactics. They came here and they sprayed out this entire building, claiming that they need to fumigate it. Then they got Yulita Moore, one of their candidates, to rush to the High Court to try to stop the recount. We had to go to the full court and then the Court of Appeal to clear the way for the recount to take place. And then when the recount took place, they refused to allow observers to come into the recount centers. They only permitted a CARICOM team. They blocked the Carter Center from returning to Guyana. They refused to transmit the entire proceedings live. They refused to allow persons to carry their cell phones into the recount. All of that they did, but the recount proceeded. And then when they realized that they were losing the recount, they started to fabricate another set of allegations, saying that ghost voters voted, thousands of them, and that documents were missing from the ballot boxes. The truth of the matter is that every polling station in this country had a presiding officer, an assistant presiding officer, and their own polling agents who presided over the proceedings and signed off a statement of poll at the end, certifying everything to be free and fair and credible. So they were throwing their own polling agents under the bus. Then they fabricated a story that 40 boxes did not have certain documents. Whether they had the documents or not, that does not affect the fact that the ballots are in the boxes. And it is the ballots that must be counted, because the ballots represents the vote. And those ballots were counted. And importantly, Keith Lowenfield told me right in this building that he has those documents, and they are being stored by GCOM at Collingin. So the documents are not missing, as they are trying to say. Then when the recount was completed, and Lowenfield, another co-conspirator of theirs, was required to prepare a report, what did Lowenfield say? Lowenfield attempted to prepare his own report, throwing out votes and discounting votes as invalid, which he has no power to do. They also questioned the credibility of the recount process. But the CARICOM team that David Granger says was the most credible interlocutor pronounced on the recount process, having observed it all, and said that it was free and fair and transparent. And then they started another series of court proceedings, all of which they lost. In the meanwhile, 100 countries had come out condemning them and demanding that the recount results be declared as the true results of the elections. Eventually it was done after they lost all the court actions, and serious sanctions were imposed upon them by the US government, and more sanctions threatened. Only then they gave up, and our government was eventually sworn in. So the tale of the elections alone is an essay in democracy. It's a live event of a struggle for free and fair elections in the Western Hemisphere in the year 2020. One would have thought that that period would have been behind us, but not once the APNU+AFC are around. Everyone knows that they rigged the 1968 election as the PNC. They rigged the 1973 elections. They rigged the 1977 referendum. They rigged the 1980 elections. They rigged the 1985 elections. In the 1992 elections, when they lost, they refused to accept the results, and they burned and they beat in Georgetown. In 1997, when they lost the elections, they refused to accept the results. They burned and they beat in Georgetown. In 2001, when they lost the elections, they refused to accept the results, and they burned and they beat in Georgetown. That is their record. And as soon as they got into the government in 2015, from 2015 to 2020, they tried to steal elections long before elections day by appointing unlawfully a chairman of GCOM and trying to interfere with the registration process and the whole electoral process in terms of compiling a voters list, etc. But all of that we won in the end. The people won, Guyana won, democracy prevailed, the rule of law prevailed, the constitution prevailed. And importantly, we have begun the task of rebuilding our country. They destroyed the economy. They destroyed the confidence of the people. They destroyed the productive sector. They plundered the economy. They put our entire country on an unconstitutional track. We had to rectify all these things, and we are still in the process of doing so. We passed one budget already. Half of it had to deal with monies that they spent. And now we are passing another budget that will be the first installment of our 5-year plan, a plan that we took to the people during the election campaign, a plan that the people endorsed, a plan that the people voted on and put us into government to implement. And that is what we are implementing. At the end of the 5 years, we would have transformed Guyana based upon our plan. This is only the first installment. This is where we are laying the foundation for the construction of a modern Guyana. So the foundation is very important. We have to lay all the relevant laws. We have to put the policies in. We have to create the atmosphere for the other stages of the production, of the developmental agenda to flow. And that is what this budget is about. So in celebrating the 1-year anniversary, I feel that the people of Guyana have won, Guyana has won, our constitution has won, and we are committed to a path that will take the ship of Guyana safely to a destination of prosperity in the interest of all of our people. So I am pleased to be celebrating this 1 year after the March 2nd elections.